It is a little bit past 3:30 on Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. For the Florida Public Radio Emergency Network, I'm Senior Meteorologist Megan Borowski, and we are tracking now Tropical Storm Bertha. If you joined us 24 hours ago, we were tracking still a tropical depression, but last evening, this system did strengthen enough to be called a tropical storm. Here's the latest look at satellite imagery. You'll notice our orange colors really on the south side and the southwestern side of the circulation of this system. Winds now 60 miles an hour, pressure is 995 millibars, and Bertha is tracking northwestward slowly at about 5 miles an hour. Earlier today, motion was only 3 miles an hour, so we're picking up a little bit of speed, but nonetheless, Bertha is still moving somewhat on the slower side. Let's take a look at where we expect Bertha to track over the next 24 hours or so, early tomorrow morning or during tomorrow afternoon. We do expect Bertha to continue tracking parallel to the Gulf Coast, potentially making landfall with Louisiana tomorrow night or early Thursday morning. It'll track west of New Orleans, and then the system should slowly start to peter out, becoming a tropical depression Thursday night or Friday morning, and eventually the remnants from this storm moving into Texas and impacting Texas well away from our state. So that's the official forecast cone right now from the National Hurricane Center. Still, though, we expect impacts, especially for the Florida Panhandle over the next 24 hours, maybe the next 36 hours or so. Tropical storm warnings in effect anywhere from Apalachicola westward to Escambia County. Tropical storm warning in effect. Occasional wind gusts to about 40 miles an hour are still expected as Bertha slowly tracks to the west toward the Louisiana coastline. I want to time out our wind gusts here. First of all, I want to check in on our current wind gusts. This is latest observations. Note Panama City, 42 mile an hour wind gust. You're going to notice a thin gradient there with our highest gusts right along the Panhandle coast, but still gusty inland. Pensacola, 33 mile an hour gust, even though that's closer to the coast. Tallahassee, 26 mile an hour gust just observed. In Gainesville in north central Florida, 25 mile an hour gusts. Even toward Tampa, Sarasota, well removed from the core of the storm, we're looking at 20 to 25 mile an hour wind gusts. So blustery day across a good portion of the state of Florida. Let's time out the forecast really for those wind gusts for the next several hours. Still looking at nearly 40 mile an hour gusts right along the Gulf Coast. And then as we get into the evening and overnight hours, we'll still see sustained winds, 35 miles an hour around dinner time in Apalachicola, 25 mile an hour gusts north of the I-10 corridor this evening. Even the potential for a 30 mile an hour gust anywhere from Horseshoe Beach all the way down to Cedar Key later on this evening toward the Nature Coast and farther south. By tomorrow morning, still dealing with blustery conditions across the Panhandle, primarily right along the Gulf Coast, and even through much of the day. We could still see 30 mile an hour gusts at lunchtime. Eventually, things will start to taper off, although staying a bit breezy into the morning hours on Thursday. So that's what we're looking at in terms of wind gusts. I want to talk about rainfall just a little bit as well. Over the past couple of days, we've gotten a good amount of rainfall right along the Gulf Coast and the Panhandle, all the way down to the Nature Coast, even as far south as Sarasota, Fort Myers, even south of Naples, really hugging the Gulf Coast area. We've seen anywhere from 3 to 6, locally over 8 inches of rain over the past 5 days. So keep that in mind. I don't expect too much in the way of additional rainfall. And the reason why is because we're actually seeing some drier air being wrapped into Bertha. Notice we've got winds from the north off of Alabama and Mississippi coming from the continent down into the Gulf. You notice those black colors, those orange colors, that denotes drier air being kind of wrapped into the more humid air on the south side of Bertha. Radar imagery right now across a good portion of the state, we're dry. We've seen some quickly moving bands work from south to north across the Florida Peninsula, some heavier rain along the Nature Coast earlier today, and of course the majority of our showers and thunderstorms today streaming from south to north into the Panhandle. But overall radar coverage is the state is mostly dry. Most of our rain showers and thunderstorms from Bertha are sitting south of the core of the storm over the Gulf. Now, timing out showers for the next couple of hours into tonight, we could actually get a few severe thunderstorms isolated severe thunderstorms, but nonetheless a chance for severe thunderstorms as we get into the evening hours along the spine of the Florida Peninsula toward inland locations. So keep that in mind. Light showers continuing over parts of the Panhandle overnight into early tomorrow morning. Hyper local pockets of heavier rainfall will be possible. Notice the bulk of our heavy rain on this particular model, again, staying well over the Gulf. So keep in mind, though, even though we're only looking at a slight chance for a few showers, over the Panhandle over the next 24 to 36 hours, we've gotten a good amount of rainfall accumulations, like I showed in that graphic a couple graphics ago, upwards of 8 inches right along the coast near Apalachicola in the Panhandle. So any additional pockets of heavier rain could lead to flash flooding. We do have a level 1 out of 4 risk across the Panhandle into the Nature Coast today, and that risk also continues for parts of the Panhandle tomorrow. Notice that our main risk really now from Gulf and Franklin counties westward to Escambia County tomorrow. So that's the flood risk. I'm not really worried too much about rainfall flooding from Bertha, but something that we are a little bit concerned of, minor impacts, storm surge flooding. Over the next 24 to 36 hours, we will still have winds from the south pushing on shore to the Forgotten Coast and the Emerald Coast. And during our high tide times, especially tomorrow morning at high tide, we could see 1 to 3 feet of storm surge inundation, and this could lead to coastal flooding. So we do have that risk for storm surge flooding anywhere from the Big Bend, the western Big Bend, all the way over to Escambia County and farther west toward the central Gulf Coast. So that is a concern as well. Something else we're looking at across the entire state of Florida at all Florida beaches is an elevated risk for rip currents, a high risk along the Gulf beaches, a moderate risk along Atlantic beaches. So if you're from the First Coast all the way down to about the Gold Coast, or the Treasure Coast rather, we do have an elevated risk for rip currents, moderate risk. So you're not really near the core of Bertha. You're not getting too much in the way of impacts from Bertha. However, the beach conditions and the wave conditions will be hazardous. So just check the beach flag before you head into the water. There is a high surf advisory in effect for the Emerald Coast. And the big takeaway here is we don't want to be putting lives at risk. So stay out of the water until things can improve, conditions improve. They look like they'll start getting better by the time we get to the Thursday time frame. So that's pretty much the overview for Bertha. Again, our main impacts being felt in the Panhandle, gusty winds up to 40 miles an hour. We'll see another update come out here from the National Hurricane Center a little bit later today, but I do expect that this storm will actually start to weaken a little bit as we get more of that dry air wrapping in into Bertha, and also we get a little bit of wind shear impacting Bertha as well. Nonetheless, those hazards that I outlined, they will still be threatening parts of our state for the next 24 to 36 hours. Of course, for up-to-the-minute forecast information, you can download that Florida Storms app for iOS and for Android devices. We'll continue to be covering Tropical Storm Bertha in the Storm Center. And until later, I'm meteorologist Megan Borowski with the Florida Public Radio Emergency Network.